Barak to Yahweh, barak to Yahushai, barak to Yahweh, barak to Yahushai, barak to Yahweh, barak to Yahushai, Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahushai Ba'ashem Kodash. Double honors and salutations to the elders and apostles of great mystery and rule well and I am preaching the gospel of the Lord Yahushai throughout the four corners on the earth, on the highways and byways, in sincerity and truth and diligence of mind. This brother Menashe of DC camp with a short lesson to edify the hopeful elect. Yeah, so this issue of famine is becoming more and more and more evident. Right, people are beginning to realize that the elite of this world, the elites of Esau, that they are basically interfering with the supply chain of agricultural products, and they're beginning to wake up to the different tactics of making life difficult, making the whole process difficult, and their desire to, make the people starve and depend on the government. Now they are becoming more and more aware of this agenda to depopulate the world of people. All right, so it's no longer so-called, what they like to say, conspiracy theory. It's a fact now, all right? Because the articles are up there, all right? Everything's been posted, and people are just putting the puzzles together. So what, the prophet's been talking about for decades is already coming to pass. And it's all part of prophecy, all right? And folks that never like to believe what the scripture has to say, now they're seeing clearly and they're getting nervous. All right, while Israelites that understand what's going on, they're waking up. Right, they're repenting and they are getting back in order with the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Ba'ashem Kodash. All right, so yeah, so this lesson, I'm just gonna pull up a quick video from this Edomite. You know how to say. There's some Edomites, man. They're just about the business of looking up facts and information and putting the puzzles together. So this from Ice Age Farmer, basically showing you what this elite has been doing, both in the so-called government and in the corporate world, how they basically intending to interfere with the people's food supply. All right. Yep, that's exactly what they want the people to do, to keep them running around in circles. Well, let me just fast forward a little bit enough. I'm gonna roll it back. Yeah, that's just Satan. Alright, so that's exactly what you gotta deal with, man, when you try to edify. But nonetheless, it's all part of the agenda, for the world, man. They're gonna interfere. So it says in the title of the video, says defund meat. Alright. The new plan to end meat by stripping credit/capital. Alright, so that's the video. Only had 33,000 views, but the message is going to get out to those that really need it. Alright, so you got another video, architecting the beast system. Alright, so this is how Esau gets, man. He gets salty with the whole issue. When it comes to, preaching the gospel, this one happens. But the most important thing is to get the scriptures. So I'm going to start with the book of Mark. Mark chapter 13, verse 8. All right, so it's sign of the times, all right? So it says in verse 8, Mark 13, verse 8, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be earthquakes in diverse places, and there shall be famines and troubles. These are the beginnings of sorrows. And that's the time we're living in, man. All right, sorrows is multiplying upon people in minds. And what you got to deal with is, the constant aura of people, the constant experience of people in distress. All right, they're upset. People are going through the furlough or on the job, on the plantation for several months now, and they have to, be living in doubt of what's going to happen. Is the economy going to open back up? And then they just throw in the towel with the, so-called employers and say, what, it's been a good ride. It's time to move on. And they get the severance packages, they file for unemployment, and they keep on, with their job search, or they head out to their countries or wherever they, wherever they come from, whether they go back to live with their families, their parents, and all that stuff. That's what we're seeing. People are living in the cities, right? People are living in San Francisco, expensive locations, cities like, New York City, especially downtown New York, Manhattan. Folks can't be paying all that rent and have no income coming in, so they got to cut their losses. All right, that's the worst thing they could do. They have to downsize. All right, that's what the scripture talks about, man. You have to trim the fat. You have to, you have to eliminate, man. You shouldn't let your right hand, cause you to stumble. All right. So, another precept is going to be from the book of Second Ezra, chapter 15. Yeah. So this famine is going to cause this famine that is coming about is going to cause a lot of trouble. It's going to cause a lot of distress. All right. So Second Ezra chapter 15. I'm going to read verse 5. It says, behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. That's what you have to expect. All that, prosperity doctrine is going out the window now. These pastors are getting exposed, all right? And they're not happy. But wait, it has to happen. The Lord has to purge. The Lord has to reveal who's doing the work and who's not doing the work. And it's very evident, all right? And these people are upset and they're looking for answers, and the pastors cannot provide any answers. And that's why you see a lot of people, going online, watching videos of different camps preaching the gospel, looking for answers desperately. And once they find the Lord, their confidence is firmly rooted, is constantly built up. And that's exactly what these so-called pastors don't want, man. They want that constant, stream of funds coming to them. Just like you hear about that so-called pastor in Louisiana asking for, people's stimulus checks and all that stuff. Yeah, that's how messed up, the so-called Christian churches have become. So it's gonna be a bumpy ride. It's gonna be a roller coaster for a lot of families, right? Households, fathers and mothers and children. All right, they're gonna go, through that difficulty. All right, because they have to deal with all the violence and all the famine. Hunger is terrible. It's a terrible thing to do, and then in a violent neighborhood, craziness and all that stuff, and looting of property and destruction. All right, so it weighs heavy on the mind. All right, so now the precept is going to be from the book of Second Ezra, chapter 16. I'm going to read from verse 18 to 22. It says, the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginnings of famine and great debt. Yep, sorrows. Just like read in Mark chapter 13, verse 8. Sorrows, sorrows, sorrows. All right? Mournings, mournings, mournings. Yeah. People crying, people weeping, people angry and depressed, crying for that wine of Babylon. All right? The beginning of famine and great debt. The beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear. All right, so these governments are going to be nervous, man. They're going to be afraid when they see the uproars of the people and they see the brain wars, man. Well, that's when they're going to run into their bunkers and hide. And it says, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Yep. Just to trust in the Lord. That's what the elect are going to do. All right. So let me try to go and revisit that video real quick. Let's see. Let me close this down. I'll pull it up real quick. I say farmer. Check his webpage. Look up his videos real quick.
I reached out and touched the sky.
What makes a business?
To try and make meat unappetizing.
All right. So, from the beginning.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached an important inflection point with respect to the war on meat and sort of a reveal of how they're going to perpetrate this agenda moving forward. And I know I've been talking about this a lot. In fact, when the coronavirus first busted onto the scene in January and was called something that emerged from a dirty meat market in China, I immediately recognized that these two things were related, that this was part of the agenda.
Yep, and that's exactly what they've been trying to do. They're trying to get people to think about going green, that whole called Agenda 21, Agenda 2020, Agenda 2030, it's all linked to it, and they want to control the land, they want to control the revenue of the people, they want to control people's acts. That's why you have issues with, the government taking over land and declaring it to be a wildlife refuge, green space and all that stuff, and it's making things difficult. And then you hear about people protesting, just like those Edomites. They have to deal with the Bureau of Land Management when it comes to ranching and all that stuff. Even the case of when it comes to the case of mining, they're trying to restrain people's use of land, because when you have land, you have autonomy. To do certain things. And just imagine when you have minerals on that land, and then you have wildlife, and then you have water. You have a fertile land that can keep you sustained for eons, and you're able to supply the people. So it doesn't go along with the plan of the elites to have people productive, and that's what pisses them off. They don't want nobody to be independent of the system, of their system of control. And that's the reason why you have so much trouble in the world, when it comes to currency. The coining of money has become a hot topic. All right, when you start talking about the Federal Reserve, system, they're talking about the gold standard and all that stuff. It becomes a headache, man. when you see how much damage these elites have caused to the world. All right, and then they understand that they have to control the food, they have to control the water, and that's what they're doing. They have to destroy the economy and turn the people's minds towards them, and their puppets, so they could have total control.
To associate disease with meat, and said this is not about the virus, ladies and gentlemen. This is about the food. I know I've been hammering on this pretty hard for a few months now, and I'm not going to apologize because this is hugely important. This is why Bertrand Russell says diet, injection, and injunctions will conspire to create a public who has no idea what's going on and cannot revolt against the powers that be. So if it's one of the big three, then we need to be talking about it, and there's not enough conversation out there. Now, it's not because I had any special insight or insider information or a crystal ball, certainly, that was clear what was going on. It's because the forces have been at work for many years now to try and make meat unappetizing to people, to try and create these fake foods and shove them in under the door. People have been saying we cannot possibly keep eating what we've been eating before. We need to get away from meat. The IPCC put out a new report last year, the land use report, that said we have to end meat eating and animal agriculture, and we have to start eating insect protein. So it's been, openly discussed for some time, as well as the fact that they couldn't somehow manage to purchase the social capital, the political willpower necessary to actually pass legislation that would make meat illegal. I mean, literally, they've been talking.
Yeah, meaning that they haven't been able to convince the people, all right, to go along with the agenda of abandoning meats, of abandoning chicken, all right, and pork and all that stuff, both the clean and unclean meats and all that stuff. Yeah, they haven't been successful, so they're going to have to do it the most diabolical way, all right? So just imagine, you can no longer go to your, your so-called ethnic restaurants and get some pollo, some carne asada, and get some kebab and all that stuff. If you like to go to the Afghan restaurants and get that kebab and all that stuff, you can't. If you want to go to the Northern Kingdom's restaurants and get that whole chicken and chopped up, that roasted stuff, you can't. Just imagine, you can no longer do certain things you want to do. You can't no longer get that brisket. Brothers that live in Texas that are familiar with the turkey leg hut, they can no longer go there, all those restaurants, because I know in Texas, ranching is big business. You hear about all type of steaks, black Angus beef, all right, all types, steaks and steaks and steaks. Nothing can get more steakier than Texas. So just imagine the amount of farmers that we put out of business. You even hear about farmers that are just getting rid of their products, their produce, because the business is bad. All right, they have to dump and dump because they can no longer find people to buy their stuff anymore. All right.
You can see about making meat illegal, or even minimally adding a meat tax, a luxury tax, a fat tax. There's been different language used to describe this. But again, people weren't buying it. They just didn't care enough about the lies from the climate crisis to actually give up their meat. So now they needed a different tack, a different approach here. And again, they've been completely open. This is the CEO of Impossible Foods who is saying we're going to end animal agriculture by 2035. And of course, he's got the resources, the billions of Bill Gates and other large billionaires behind them. So the big money has this goal, and they're working hard on it. And that's why it's easy to see what's going on here. So when we...
That's what the, Maya Amshabawa says, if he is given control, he is given authority of the country's money supply, money coinage and all that, but he doesn't really care who makes the laws. And that's what happens, man. Even when the Wu-Tang Clan talks about, cream, cash rules everything around me, That's the same mindset of the elites, man. Once they're able to corner the manufacture of money, the coinage of money, that's it. They're able to manipulate people to do their own, do things against their own interest. Make people their own worst enemy. That's what the elites are pushing towards, man. To turn the people against each other. Make the people, attack each other and become violent and betray one another. So it's not that difficult to see. You just have to, pray to Lord Yahweh Shai to make you aware of these nefarious acts that they've been working hard to do. All right. So let me just continue with the book of Second Ezra. All right, I'm going to read verse 19, 16 and 19. It says, "Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment." So all these curses coming upon the earth is just coming to purge two-thirds and the wicked, and the heathen, to make them go through those narrow straits, man. All right, but for the elect's sake, we're gonna overcome. All right, verse 20 says, "But for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges." So people are gonna be hard-headed and stiff-necked. All right, they're gonna continue to do more evil. Just like when you're in a war zone, you see how evil the damages. They see the actions of the warlords and the troops. All right, so that's how wicked, it's gonna get. All right, verse 21 says, "Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and confusion." Yes, that's what the whole world, that's what the world is heading towards, man. In time, they're heading towards violence, shortage of food, water, and confusion, lack of clarity. All right, that's what is going to happen to the bug outs of this world, for the folks that did not put their trust in Lord Yahweh Shai. They're going to be confused, they're going to be confounded. All right. Verse 22 says, "For many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy." And that's what's going to happen, man. That's what's going to happen. People don't want to talk about the bitterness of the scriptures, so there you have it. All right. So I'll go ahead and play the video some more.
When we see this article today, saying that we need to divest from the meat industry. We need to pay attention. Let me make sure we're all on the same page first with respect to that term, divest, which is, of course, the opposite of invest. You put your money into something, you invest in it. You take money away from something, that's called divesting. And we've heard that word very recently, actually, it's all one integrated agenda at this point, but we've heard it from the climate change side of the house as well. The global warming cultists have called for people like Christine Lagarde of the IMF and the European Central Bank, who said, we're just going to not give money to anybody who pollutes. And you see, in fact, here, the European Central Bank is seeking to identify those who pollute so that they can make sure that only the non-polluting, only the companies they want to exist in the new green Agenda 2030 world will get money. Banks and asset managers will be able to identify the risks from your pollution and take away your money. We saw the same kind of a call from Jay Inslee, who said, I've got $1.5 trillion to give out to people in my green coronavirus stimulus plan. But I'm only going to give it to you if you play by my rules. And so that's the theme here. That's what's going on, is we're going to burn down the entire house and only stand up new green companies that play by the Agenda 2030 rules. Order from chaos, right? Burn down the old, and from the ashes arises the new green world order. So, given that background, I think it's no surprise that we're now seeing calls for the same thing, divest from the meat industry. And briefly, let me first acknowledge, I'm the first person, I keep saying this, but it has to be said every time, I hate factory farming, we need to get rid of the CAFRs, this isn't real agriculture, this is a disgusting straw man that they have created so that they can now burn it down and stand up their fake systems and say that that was the old way of doing things. This is disgusting. This is not the old way of doing things. Regenerative, holistic, permaculture practices. These are the ways, indigenous practices. All of these are fundamentally the same thing, and that's what we need to get back to. So yes, I agree we should get rid of factory farming, provided we already have a smooth landing, a transition plan.
And that's what, I can be talking about, man. Esau has turned farming and the raising of animals into a nightmare. You look at animals stuck in cages and all that, and that's exactly how they always want to have their plans, order out of chaos. They cause a problem and then they blame, the blame for it, and then they say, well, then people can no longer do this because of this, and then they propose a so-called solution. And if they don't go along with the solution, you can no longer be a part of the farming business. You can no longer partake in that industry. So that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to, squeeze the people out financially. Because when folks don't have access to funds, their lives become more difficult. It's filled with roadblocks and limitations. And that's what they want to do. They want to control, all this, what you say, from the farm to the table. They want to be in control of all that, all right?
And we don't have that right now, but they're calling for us to burn down the house anyway. So, having now said all of that preface, let's take a look at what the Hill is saying we need to do. Quote, it's time for a global divestment campaign against the meat industry. It's now proven itself to be as harmful to human health as the fossil fuel industry. So there we go. You see, we're equating those two things. I'm not kidding when I say they're just rolling up everything they don't like and calling that racist and the old way and dirty and full of viruses. This is literally what's being done. COVID-19 is continuing to climb. This is because of meat factories. Before COVID-19, it was because the deadly H1N1 killed over 12,000 people, and that was also from the meat industry. You can see it's rife with disease. There's a pandemic pattern here, and there will be more. There's a tell.
Yep. And that's what they want to do. They want to cause more pandemics. They want to create more fear, more propaganda. All right, because that's what they have. They have to deceive the people. All right. So another precept is going to be from the book of Sirach, chapter 39. I'm going to read from verse 25 to 27. It says, for the good are good things created from the beginning, so evil things for sinners. All right. So whatever the Lord Yahweh has done, good things is created on the earth. It's always going to be taken advantage of, for those that want to hold on to righteousness, especially the elect of the nation of Israel. But for the evil ones, it pisses them off. And that's what happens. When you have laws, statutes, and commandments, the elect understand the value, but it's a stumbling block. It's like what you call an impediment, an annoying prick, all right, towards two-thirds. And the elites of this world, man, they're upset. They're upset at the structure that the Lord Yahweh has placed upon the earth. That's why they violate the laws, and then they say, well, these violators are the problem, that we need to get rid of the whole laws. See, that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna pick a so-called black Hebrew Israelites and blame him for causing trouble in the society, after he's claiming that he's obeying the laws. Just like the Lord say you can't be over righteous and all that stuff. That's what they want to do. They're going to blame, all those folks that like to shout the Lord, the Lord, the Lord. They're going to use them as an example to come against the man of the Lord. That's what's going to happen, man. Okay? And then verse 26 says, the principal things for the whole life, for the whole use of man's life, the principal things for the whole use of man's life are water, fire, iron, and salt, flour of wheat, honey, milk, and the blood of the grape, and oil, and clothing. All these are for good to the godly. So to the sinners they are turned into evil. Yep, and that's what you see. That's why the elites are upset, man. There's enough food, to go around. There's enough treasure on the earth to go around to take care of all the people. But when you look at the elites of this world, they're not pleased. They just want people to go to them and beg and beg and beg and beg and beg. That's what they want. But the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai is bringing about balance. Just like the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai gave, Israel, our people, their own land, you also get the heathens their own land. So that's being fair. All right? That's being what we call being just. The Lord told us, you can't take other people's land, man. You have yours, they have theirs. It's that simple. So that's what the Lord teaches you, to be content, to be balanced. All right. So another precept is going to be from the book of Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 11, verse 26. So it says, he that withholdeth corn, the people shall curse him. And that's exactly what's going on, man. Because you can imagine all the people that are upon the face of the earth that are going through hard times, just yelling and cursing out the elites of these Edomites, the elites of this world, the elites of their own nation. They're cursing them out day in and day out. And the Lord hears all that, man. He hears the groaning of Jake and also the heathen, And that's, what the Lord is going to be taking care of very soon. It's going to overthrow them. That's why the Lord Yahweh Shai is coming back, right? And it says, but blessing shall be upon the head of him that selleth it, all right? So when you have a man of the Lord out there on the highways and byways, you're feeding the people. You may not be giving them, food physically, but spiritual food. You're putting up the lessons, and people are edified, man. Especially our people, and the heathens are beginning to know who the problem of the earth is, and that's this Edomites, man, this Edomite nation, and they also got a narrow down, Amalek, all right, the so-called Jewish folks, man. It's that simple, and these so-called government officials, they're scared to talk about it. Yep, and that's the nature of the problem. Yeah, but you just gotta keep on speaking the word, man, whether you lose your voice or not. But it's all spiritual, all right. You just have to endure until the end. Yeah, because doing this work requires a lot of sacrifice, man. You don't get no breaks. All right, you have to endure all the way to the end. And that's one thing a lot of folks don't understand. That, once you start to do the work, you got to deal with it. You have to accept what it requires you to do. All right. So this is the book of Lamentation, chapter 4, verse 9. It says, they that be slain with the sword are better than they that be slain with hunger. Yeah, because when folks are starving, and they're hungry and they have nothing to eat, they go for a day without food, and then 4 days, and then 5 days, and then a week, then a week and a half. Then you begin to have a problem. All right, and that's a miserable way to live. All right, and then it says, for these pine away, stricken true for want of the fruits of the field. And that's what famine causes. All right, it's going to cause a lot of people to go the route of cannibalism. All right, so don't be surprised, man, when you hear about people getting chopped up and eaten, man. You hear about folks getting, folks missing. Don't be surprised, You see a family with children and a dog. The first week, the dog goes missing. The second week, children are seen there. The third week, the children just start disappearing one after the other, right? Then the family start to go mad and all that stuff. So it's going to be crazy. All right, so another precept is going to be from the book of Revelation, chapter 6, read verse 7 and 8. It says, And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, Come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. That describes Esau's rulership to a T. Alright, so that's Esau for you there. So people calls say Esau as death. He has death and cannot be satisfied. He has the grave. He cannot be satisfied, And that's how the scripture describes Esau. So there's more articles.
There will be more. This is just like when Jerry Brown said after the Paradise Fire, there will be more fires, and they will make believers out of even the staunchest climate deniers. So here you see the same promise that this is their agenda at play. There will be more pandemics stemming from meat. That's not Christian at Ice Age Farmer making that up. That's what they're telling us is the plan that's going to happen so that you give up your meat. Because we couldn't get you to do it by telling you that cow farts. No one was buying that. So now we're going to kill people until you listen to us. That's why a divestment campaign is so critical. And then again, they equate President Donald Trump trying to keep meat plants open with the fact that it's human rights abuses to make those people work in the factories with COVID, right? We've seen, briefly, we've seen that the meatpacking plants workers are being told that they're being abused. In fact, here's a site called workingattyson.com, which appeared overnight. It stood up by major media companies and by activists. Workers' rights activists, farm workers activists, and animal rights activists like Extinction Rebellion, Animal Rebellion. So these are the very people who are making the case that we should end animal farming. And so, of course, it makes sense that they're going to stand up this website that says, hey, you guys that work at Tyson, you shouldn't do that anymore. But that campaign is working. Meatpacking plants are refusing to go to work. They're afraid of getting sick because of all that propaganda that the media is pushing out. A union worker told Reuters last week that between 30 and 50% of the workers are not even coming to work anymore. So Trump, you can pass your executive order that says, please come to work, please keep the meatpacking plants open, but the propaganda is reaching the workers themselves, and they're not showing up anymore. There's widespread fear among workers due to the dangers of the job and the response of the plant-owning corporations. To be fair, there was horrific mismanagement of those practices. They were taking exposed and infected workers from one plant when they got shut down and just shuffling them down to other plants. So, that's kind of a deliberate attempt to shut down your own business, but, what have you. And of course, this is continuing. Now we're seeing...
Yep, that's the plan. That's the plan. That's the plan. That's the plan.
In Europe, as I covered yesterday, Germany shut down its largest beef and pork plant. Today, there's an outbreak announced in Wales, in the United Kingdom. This is the same British meat factory that supplies KFC. So expect to see chicken shortages at Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah, so I'm going to leave it on that. That's exactly what you're going to be, experiencing. Meat shortage, and then it's going to spread to, food shortage. There might be a lack of of tortilla. Lack of fruits and vegetables and all that stuff. It's coming. All right, you can't deny it. Right, because the prophets, the elders, and apostles of Great Millstone have been talking about this for decades, and now it's happening. All right, Scripture talks about the prophecy is for an appointed time, and it's yeah. All right. So our final precept is going to be from the book of Sirach, chapter 18, verse 25. It says, "When thou hast enough, remember the time of hunger, and when thou art rich, think upon poverty and need." All right. So it's basically scriptures basically telling you that don't get carried away in your possessions, man. When things are going good for you, always remember the bottom, from which you came from. Right? Remember the struggles. Just like when a woman is pregnant, she's about to give birth to a child, she has to go through those pains. You shouldn't forget those pains, man. You shouldn't forget the struggles, of what you had to do, according to the will of the Lord, Yahweh Shai, to be in a better case. All the sacrifices you've made, you shouldn't, disregard that. You should keep it simple. Scripture talks about being humble. That's exactly what the lesson is about. Being humble. All right. So you don't deny the Lord. That's why the scripture mentions that that we need to be fed with food that's convenient for us, rather we be rich and deny the Lord, or be broke like a church rat and curse the Lord. The Lord's going to provide you what you need. All right, so you don't have to go, beyond your limits. All right, you just have to know how to ride that wave. So that was the point that I came. Hope you've been edified, and pray, Lord, that by Shema shall continue to anoint your eyes with eye salve to see what's going on in this world, because it's really necessary to have an idea of the prophecies taking place, on a daily basis. So I pray that we are able to endure unto the end. All right, Shalom Akim.